Okay, we're continuing on with the Mishnah that we're in Perek Hay. Turning off the phone. We begin this year with Kol Yisrael Yesh Lehem Chelek L'Olam Haba. All of Israel has a share in the world to come. Shenemar.
Rabbi, are you recording?
Yes, I already pressed record. Yes.
Yeah, I don't see it. That's why.
Yes, David, can you back me up? Is it recording?
Yes, it's recording.
Oh, usually it says record. Okay, very good.
Kol Yisrael Yesh Lehem Chelek L'Olam Haba. All of Israel has a share in the world to come. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, V'amech kulam tzadikim, your entire nation is righteous. La'olam yirshu aretz, they shall forever inherit the land. Neitzer matoi, they are the branch of my planting. Ma'aseh yodai lehispa'er, the work of my hand, that I may be glorified, says Hashem. We're in the middle of Mishnah Zion, where it says, Shivat Dvarim Begolam, the Shiva B'chacham. There are 7 things that are found in an unfinished clod of a person, and there are 7 things that are found in a chacham. And the Mishnah begins, and when we refresh our memory, we always begin with the chacham because these are the things we'd like people to have. Chacham eino medaber b'fnei mishu gadol mimenu b'chachma uva minyan. A chacham, a wise person, doesn't speak before someone who is greater than him in wisdom or age. The eino nichnas l'toch divrei chaveiro, he doesn't enter into the words of his friend. And as we interpreted yesterday, we don't interrupt when someone is angry, because that will only cause more machlokes, because davar is language of kashos. The eino nival lahashiv, you're not impetuous to answer, as we learned from the words oz nivalu alufei edom, if you remember yesterday. Shoel ke'inyanu meishiv kahalacha, that's where we're up to today. You ask according to the topic and you answer lehalacha, because once you are not quick to retort, you now have to find out what is the other person asking you, and you'll have to ask questions about that inyan. What is the topic? What is the problem? Shoel ke'inyanu meishiv kahalacha, and then you answer according to the halacha. The omer al rishon alachon achron. You say first things first and second things second, last things last. If you didn't hear, you say I didn't hear. And that's the simple interpretation. And of course, you always admit the truth. The exact opposite things apply to the golem. We were on the topic of the eino nival lahashiv, you're not quick to answer, and also shoel ke'inyanu meishiv kehalacha. When it says eino nival lahashiv, it means you're not so impetuous to answer. It could possibly be that you don't know the answer. So think it through. You may not know the answer right off. Do you know that 2 times in Chumash Bereshis, twice in Chumash Bereshis, Rashi says, Eini yodeya ma malamdenu, I don't know what this comes to teach us. I'm not going to go into those 2 times. It just suffices to say it's there. Rashi himself said, I don't know. Nothing wrong with saying I don't know. Don't be nival lahashiv. Don't be impetuous to answer. We all have that desire to straighten things out and give an answer. I know I myself sometimes I'm very interested. I want to straighten it out and say it clearly, but the best thing is let the other person finish. Let's hear what the other person has to say, and then we can give our response. We shouldn't be nival lahashiv. Nival lahashiv also means that we don't always have to give a response that's going to make everything okay. Sometimes when another person says something, it's best not to argue and just go along because that's the truth. I remember when I was a young boy in the yeshiva, there was a very, very nice boy in our class. We must have been about 11, 12 years old at the time. It was somewhere around the 6th, 7th grade, if I remember. And we had close to 30 boys in the class. Our graduating class in the 12th grade had 110 young men when we graduated our JJ. And one of the boys when we were in the 7th grade, I think it was, he was a very, very heavy young boy. He was a little bit too obese, it's true. And not everyone was friendly with him, but most of the class enjoyed his personality. He was a very jovial sort, and people gravitated to his personality. Anyway, one day, one young man, one of the boys in the class who didn't like him, walked by him, and he insulted him terribly. And he said, "You're so fat," and he started yelling at him. And the boy went over to this fellow, and he gave him a hug and said, "Don't complain to me. It's true. I'm too fat. But Hashem made me this way. That's what Hashem did. So it's true. That's the way I am. It doesn't pay to yell at me. It's okay. This is the way I am." So that's another interpretation of Eino Niva Lahashiv. You don't have to be so quick to straighten things out and to answer it back and to come up with something that's going to make it all okay. Sometimes you just admit the situation and you say, Hashem did this. That's the way it is. And since that's the way it is, leave it. Now, the truth of the matter is, in years to come, he, of course, became a very, very good fellow and made a lot of friends and was very, very successful in business. And no one ever said a word to him about his weight. First of all, he lost most of it. But, you know, when you become wealthy, nobody starts up with you anyway. Okay. Then it says, Shoel ke'inyanu meshiv kehalocha. You know, when it says Shoel ke'inyanu meshiv kehalocha, the Knesset Yisrael comes along and says, this is not only for every ordinary person, but this is a piece of big musar to Rabbanim. It's important when someone asks you a question, don't go into deep pilpul. Don't start giving him a shiur. The Rambam says this, and the Kesef Mishnah asks a question on that, and the Tzofnas Paneach gives a teretz like this, and if you look into the Reb Chaim on the Rambam, you'll see that. He came to ask you a question. Shoel ke'inyanu meshiv kahalacha. Give the answer according to the halacha. The pilpul, if he wants to learn with you, b'chavrusa, you'll tell him the pilpul. I was once standing by Rav Moshe Bikzal. I was in his office and we were discussing an Inyan, and he got a phone call. And I was able to hear, I didn't know who it was, but I heard the shaila. He held the phone away from his ear, and the person was screaming at the top of his lungs, and he asked the shaila about this or heter, whether it's permitted or forbidden, and Rav Moshe Bik gave him the answer. I don't remember whether it was us or it was mutter. I don't remember the question, but I remember he gave him an answer, and I heard him say on the other side, "Yeah, but what about this? Why is that so? I once learned like this." So Rav Bik says, "Yeah, but that's the answer." So he asked again, "Why is that so?" So at that point, Rabbi Bik, who is a very, very busy man, said to him, "Listen, if you want to know the why, go to yeshiva and learn. But you asked me the shaila, here's the answer." He gave him the answer. Another incident. I was sitting at a bris the morning after Pesach was over. A friend of mine made a bris for a grandchild. We went to the bris in the morning after Pesach. And a fella came. I was sitting next to Reb David Feinstein Shlita, who was at the bris. He was the sandik of the bris, and my friend was on the other side, and I was sitting there. And a man comes over to Reb David, and he asks him a question, because on the table was a certain type of schnapps. So he came over to Reb David, and he says, "Rebbe, this schnapps is kosher? So Reb David, who was making a l'chaim on the schnapps at the time, said to him, yes, the Rosh Hashiva said it's permissible. It's kosher. So he said, yeah, but, and he started tidying out with him. So David said to him, listen, you don't want to drink it. You don't have to drink it. You asked me if it's kosher. It's kosher. You don't want it? Give it to me. That's what he said to him. Meishiv kahalacha. Don't start with pilpul. You ask the shaila, you give the halacha. At that same bris, another fellow came over, and they were talking about baby wipes on Shabbos. And he described the baby wipe to Reb David, and Reb David said it's permissible. He said it's permissible, but what about tofeach al menas lahatfiach? It's so wet and can make other things wet. Reb David said, listen, you asked me if it's permissible. It is permissible. You don't want to use it? Don't use it. You asked me halacha. The halacha is it's permissible. And that's what it means when it says, Shoel ke'inyan umeshiv kahalacha. Then it says, V'omer al rishon rishon, v'al achron achron. You say on first things first and on last things last. Now, the Medrash Shmuel brings down the fact that when it says the Omer al Rishon Rishon al Achron Achron, it doesn't necessarily mean you only answer first questions first. It's possible that you can ask the last question first and then go back to the first question. Now, I'll bring you a proof of this, that what the Medrash Shmuel is so. You take a look at Masechta Brachos on Daf Beis, and we recently had occasion to mention that in terms of the Mishnah in Makos, which I'm not going to go into, but we asked, one of our Choshev Balabatim asked the beautiful question about the order of the Mishnah. But anyway, the Gemara in Brachos on Daf Beis starts out, the very first Mishnah, Me Amosai Korin Shma Ba'arvin. When do you begin to say Shema at night? And the Gemara tells us when the earliest time to say Shema is. Later on Daf Tes, the Gemara brings down that we ask the question, Me Amosai Korin Shema B'Shachris. When do you begin to say Shema in the morning? So the first Mishnah was, what's the earliest time to say Shema at night? The second Mishnah is, what's the earliest time to say Shema in the morning? Then the Mishnah goes on to say, in the morning, there are two brachas before Shema and one bracha after Shema. And in the evening, there are two brachas before Shema and two brachas after Shema. So the Gemara asks the question, wait a minute, if you're supposed to answer al Rishon, so that means you should always put things in order. And in fact, the Gemara even asks, why does the Mishnah start with the Shema at night and then go to the Shema in the morning? Why didn't it start with the Shema in the morning? So the Gemara answers, because the Pasuk says, Vayehi Erev, Vayehi Voker, because there was evening and there was morning. So we also say, B'shach b'cha u'v'kumecha, when you lie down and when you rise up. So what do we see from this? We see from this that the night comes first. In the Jewish calendar, the night comes first. Vayehi Erev, then Vayehi Voker. So therefore, it starts at night. So the Gemara asks, wait a minute, but didn't you start with when do we say Shema at night? Then you went to say, when do we say Shema in the morning? Then you said, in the morning we say two brachas before and one bracha after. At night we say two brachas before and two brachas after. Why didn't you put night first over there also? So the Gemara answers on Daf Beis Amud Aleph. The Gemara answers because listen to the progression here. I started talking about the night, then I went to the morning. Once I'm on the morning, I finish with the brachos of the morning, and then I go back to the brachos at night. So therefore, the Medrash Shmuel is saying that when it says in this Mishnah that Omer al Rishon Rishon v'al Achron Acharon, it means that you can even go al Rishon start. And then al Acharon, once you're on the Acharon already, then you can continue on speaking about the Acharon. So let's say someone's out on a shidduch date and they're asked a question and then another question, and they answer the first question. The first question is, what's your Hebrew name? What's your full Hebrew name? And the second question is, where do you live? And do you like it? So the girl answers, my Hebrew name is so-and-so, and she can say, I don't know, Batsheva Miriam, let's say, all right? And where do you live? I live in Monsey, and I like Monsey very much. He meant, do you like the name? But she answered, do you like Monsey? Because once you're talking about Monsey, she continued to talk about Monsey. Now you may ask me, why did I bring up a case of a shidduch? I'll tell you why. I want you to look in Bereshis Chaf Dalid. You have a chance. You don't got to do it now. And we don't have it on the board. It's not necessary because it's a very simple thing. But in Bereshis Perek Chaf Dalid, in Pasuk Chaf Dalid, easy way to remember it, Bereshis 24, Pasuk 24, we're dealing here with Eliezer going to find a wife for Yitzchak. And Avraham Avinu, gave him instructions, find a girl that's suitable for my son Yitzchak. So Eliezer says to her, Vayomer, he says to her, Bas mi at, whose daughter are you? Hagidi no li, please tell me, Hayesh beis avich mokom lanu lolin, is there room in the house of your father for us to stay? That was he had two questions. First, he asked her, whose daughter are you? And second, is there room in your father's house for us to stay? Vatomer elov, she says to him, Bas Besuel Anochi, I'm the daughter of Besuel, the son of Milcah, which was born to Nachor. And she said, we have provision and place to sleep. Says Rashi in Chav Dalid, Heshivoso al Rishon va'al Acharon. She answered him, first things first, and then the second thing second. Wow. This concept of answering first and then answering the second one shows a sense of orderliness, a sense of priority, a sense that things have a system. The world is not haphazard. Everything has its place. And not only does everything have its place, and not only was Rivka a religious girl, but Rivka was not only frum, Rivka also was intelligently frum. She was able to use her Yiddishkeit in a very, very logical, sensible way. And when Eliezer saw this, he was overwhelmed because he understood that Rivka is the one, and he hit it on the head. And he davens to Hashem and he says, Baruch Hashem, blessed is Hashem that led me to the right place to find the right girl. So putting things in the proper order and the proper perspective, saying things according to the Seder. You take a look at the davening. The davening follows a logical order. Each and every thing that is printed for us to say is going according to a system, an order. We start out with Moda'ani, just thankfulness to be alive. Then we thank Hashem for all steps as they come one after the other. First, I open my eyes. So I am happy to say HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a sense to the rooster to crow and wake me up. I could have overslept and been late for work or been late for shul, whatever. Yitz Hashem, we should have an opportunity to be late for shul, but not to be late, just to have the opportunity and to be on time, of course. And then, it says, you haven't made me without mitzvahs. You made me a Jew instead of making me a goy. You didn't make me an oved. And pokei chivrim, you opened my eyes. Malbish arumim, you clothed me. Important to see. I wouldn't know if I'm putting on my clothes or the next guy's clothes. The famous Chelm story about one of the rabbis of Chelm. So he went traveling with his beadle, with his shamus, and he said to the shamus, he said, make sure that when the train we have a long trip, it's going to take 24 hours. Make sure you wake me up in time to daven shacharis. Please make sure. So the shamus was afraid to go to sleep all night. Sure enough, as soon as it came the morning, he woke up the rabbi, and the rabbi was so sleepy. He took the clothes, the first ones he could get his hands on, and he put them on. And he walks out to go daven, and he passes a mirror, and he looks in the mirror, and he sees that he's wearing the shamish's clothes. He said, "Oy, that foolish shamus. I told him to wake me." He went and woke himself, because he couldn't tell the difference. Malbish arumim. It's a gift to know that Hashem clothes us with the right clothing. And that's all that we learn from the Omer al Rishon Rishon va'al Acharon Achron. Despite the fact that the Medrash Shmuel says you can give the second answer first when it's apropos, but still we see from Rivka that Eliezer knew that this was the right one for Yitzchak because she had a seder and she answered al Rishon Rishon va'al Acharon Acharon. Next, we also learn va'al ma shelo shama omer lo shamati. Something that you didn't hear, you say, I didn't hear. Now, what does it mean, simply speaking, va'al ma shelo shama? Why didn't it say va'al ma shelo yoda omer lo yodati? What you don't know, you say you don't know. Why did it say va'al shelo shama omer lo shamati? So the Medrash Shmuel once again comes along and he explains, and it says like this: the word shama doesn't only mean what you didn't hear from the past generations. It doesn't only mean that. It also means va'al ma shelo shama. If you didn't understand what was being taught, you were sitting by the shiur and you didn't quite get it. Don't be ashamed to say, Rebbe, Mora, whatever it is, Ma, Mami, Tati, Ima, Abba, whatever it is, there's no harm in saying, Lo Shamati, I didn't get it. Can you do that again, please? Lo Shamati. I didn't hear it. I don't hear it. I don't quite get it. Can you do it again? And that's a chacham. A chacham is capable of saying, Va'al ma shelo shama. That which was not heard, he could say, Lo shamati. I didn't hear it. I didn't understand it. I don't know it. Can you please repeat it again? Perhaps if you give me a little more insight, I'll be able to grab and understand the concept. Don't be afraid to say, Lo shamati, that I didn't hear it. The Benoyos Berama, has a very, very big musar. A very big musar. We don't always like getting musar, but the Benoyos Berama says there's a very big hint by the author of the Mishnah to tell us Va'al shelo shama omer lo shamati. Very often, many times, we hope and pray that our tefillos are completely understood, accepted, and answered the way we want them answered. We want our prayers to be heard the way we want them heard. Now, we don't have any hold on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we learned a few shiurim ago, we say, Poseach es yodecha umaspil l'chol chai ratzon. Open up your hand and give to satisfaction all the things that a human being needs, all that life needs, willingly. And the willingly means your will. Because if it's your will, Hashem, that's what I want. It's got to be my ratzon and your ratzon are the same. That's true. But nevertheless, there are times where we think to ourselves, if only this prayer could be answered. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help give me an answer. And you're not answered the way you want the answer. Interestingly, the Pasuk in Mishlei, in Perek Chav Ches, says a statement which helps us understand this particular little phrase. And the way the Benayos Barama explains it is as follows. Va'al shalosh shama, because the prayer was not heard the way you thought it should be heard, is because, Omer, it's because lo shamati, because I didn't hear. Because I didn't hear what I was supposed to hear. My prayer was not heard because I didn't hear what I was supposed to hear. Now, what does that mean? I didn't hear what I was supposed to hear. There comes the pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk in Mishlei that was written by Shlomo HaMelech in Perek Chav Ches says, Meisir ozno mishmoa Torah. If someone turns away from listening to Torah, gam tfiloso to'eva. Also, his prayer is abominable. If someone turns away from listening to words of Torah, the prayer is not accepted. Imagine someone in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah decides to have a discussion with his neighbor about the results of the ball game or the stock market in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah. And then he comes and he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, grant me life, grant me health, Rofei Chole Avo Yisrael, give me wealth, Borei Choleinu. Then he goes and prays. And he asks him Shalom, Tova Racha. But he was Meisir Ozno Mishmoa Torah. He turned his ear away from hearing the Kriyas HaTorah. Says the Benayos Berama, that's what the Tana meant. Va'al ma shalosh shama. If there's a prayer that's not heard, Omer, the person should say, Lo shamati. I did not hear. I did not understand. I did not listen. That's why it was not heard. It's like Mida Keneged Mida. I didn't hear. The boss doesn't hear. We're going to be going back to shul within the next few months, for sure. We hope and pray. No matter what we've heard about this one saying it's going to happen now, it's going to happen later, soon it will happen. May not be for Shavuos, we don't know, we're working on it. But when we get back, one thing should be absolutely clear to every single person who walks into shul. Number one, if it's a weekday, turn off the phone. Off. O-F-F. O-F-F off. Second, absolutely no talking whatsoever. Not in the middle of davening, and not in the middle of laning. Because Alma Shalo Shama Omer Lo Shamati. Unbelievable Musa, said the B'nai Berama. What powerful Musa. And we have to think about that. We really have to think about this. It makes no sense to speak in the middle of davening, not in the middle of Psuke de Zimra, where it's also to speak because there's a bracha, a Baruch She'amar at the beginning, and you stabach at the end, and it's all one bracha, and it's as if you're talking out in the middle of a bracha. Can you imagine somebody saying a bracha, he's about to take an apple and eat Bari Piyatz, hey, by the way, what did the Mets do yesterday? Melech Olam, hey, what about the Knicks? How's the stock market? Bore, and he starts, it makes no sense. It's absolutely foolish. What are you doing? Turn the phone off, and don't speak in the middle of the davening. So that's the B'nai Berama. Pretty heavy stuff. It's something we need to hear, and something that everyone who is at the Shiur today needs to publicize to his neighbor or her neighbor when we get back, if the other one didn't get the message. It's important. We're going to be coming back to a Mikdash Ma'at that we want to keep as a Mikdash, as holy. This is one of the ways. Umode al ha'emes. We have to admit the truth. We have to say, that's emes. That is emes. It's irrefutable. It's the first letter, the middle letter, and the last letter of the Aleph base, Aleph Mem Tuf. It has a solid basis. The Aleph stands by itself. The Mem stands by itself. The Tuf stands by itself. Sheker, the Shin comes to a point. Kuf, it's unbalanced. Reish, tips over. Notice, Sheker are three letters right next to each other. Kuf, Reish, and Shin. Lies have to stick together, but they fall down ultimately anyway. Well, the emes, no matter how you spread it out, it's going to be the truth. Umoda al emes, admit the truth. The chilufehem begolam, the exact opposite is with the golam. The golam, an unfinished being, doesn't pay attention, doesn't understand. Mamish and golam. It's awesome. None of us would, God forbid, ever want to be put in the category of a golam. So we have to be moda alo emes. We have to be saying to ourselves, ad shelo shama, lo shamati, and so on and so forth. Now, the Malaket of the famous Likud tells us that this Mishnah really has a progression, and he says as follows. These are the 7 milas of the Chacham. Number 1, before he even speaks, Eino medaber b'fnei misha gadol mimenu. That is attribute number 1, right? Eino medaber b'fnei misha gadol mimenu. That's attribute number 1. Second attribute is the Eino nichnas l'toch divrei chaveiro. When someone else is speaking, you don't interrupt. Third attribute. When the other person finishes speaking, Eino nivala hashiv. He doesn't immediately become impetuous to answer. When he begins to answer, he's shoel ke'inyan and meishiv kehalacha. And when he finally has to give a full explanation, he's meishiv al rishon rishon, omer al rishon rishon, va'al achron achron. And if he taka doesn't know the answer, he has to say, lo shamati. I did not hear that answer. Umoda al ha'emes. And you admit the emes. So all this Mishnah, beautiful, beautiful Mishnah, which gives us so much insight into the hashkafa of Klal Yisrael and into the way we have to conduct ourselves when talking to the best of our ability. Now, none of us are perfect. We all know that. None of us. We all have, idiosyncrasies, foibles, faults, call it what you want. No one's perfect. It's true. Don't go down on yourself and get depressed if you're not fulfilling the Mishnah perfectly. That's not part of our system. Our system is we're moda ala emes. As long as we're moda ala emes, we're going to be fine because we're going to admit I'm not perfect, but I'm striving. I'm striving to get a little bit better. Not perfect, just a little bit better. And if I do that, those are the 7 attributes of a chacham. The opposite is a goylem. I don't care. That's the way it is. Too bad. That's it. Blah, blah, blah. What an empty way. And so we're going to live according to the beautiful interpretations that we've learned in this beautiful Mishnah. And Yetz Hashem, on Wednesday night, we're going to continue with Perek Vav, the next Perek, and we're going to go on from there for the entire Wednesday and Thursday night shiur, and then again Sunday and Monday. As soon as we hear that the government allows us to open the shul, we will do it, not before. Because no matter how many other shuls open, not completely obeying the rules, we will not do that because this is a safek nefashos. It's a safek sakana. I don't want to take the chance. You don't want to take the chance when no one's allowed to take the chance. It's against the halacha to take the chance. We're not going to take the chance. We're going to go according to the rules that are told to us by the medical professionals and by our Gedolei HaPoskim. And we're going to open and deal according to the law. So everybody is welcome to join with the next part of the shiur, which is, of course, the shiur in the Mishnah. And we're about to go to that right now. Tomorrow night is the shiur.